Stay with me.
15th,
Can you hear me?
1985.
I hear you. It
Bitterroot
hurts.
Mountains,
I
Montana.
know. I'm here.
23
Help me out.
miles from the nearest town.
You're hurt.
Negative
Does it hurt a
35
lot?
degrees
Easy,
Fahrenheit with
child. They're
wind chill.
strong. They'll be all right.
Garrett
I
Webb
wanna
found them
help.
at dawn.
You are
Two
helping.
shapes in the snow, green against white. The kind of green that didn't belong in these mountains. The kind that meant trouble. The kind that 3 years ago had cost him everything. Orcs. He should have walked away. Any reasonable man would. Any father protecting his daughter would turn around, go back to the cabin, bar the door, and pretend he'd seen nothing. Let the mountain claim them. Let the cold finish what hunger and exhaustion had started. But Garrett Webb had stopped being reasonable the day his wife died. The sun hadn't cleared the peaks yet. The world existed in that strange pre-dawn gray where shadows stretched long and every sound carried too far. Garrett's breath came out in white plumes that froze midair and fell like tiny ice crystals. His M14 rifle hung across his back. Old habit, the kind you picked up in the Rangers and never quite shook even 5 years after discharge. He'd been heading for the woodpile when he saw the tracks. Boot prints, wrong pattern for hikers, too light for hunters, and the spacing whoever made them had been stumbling, lurching, dying. The blood trail started 20 yards into the tree line, not red, green tinged, dark against the snow like old copper. Orc blood oxidized differently than human, turned that sickly jade color when exposed to air. Garrett had seen enough of it during the border wars to know it on sight. He followed it without thinking. Muscle memory, track the wounded, assist the threat, survive. The first body lay face down in a drift. Female, tall for an orc maybe 6 feet, wearing what had once been leather armor but now hung in tatters. Her skin was that deep forest green that marked her as Iron Peak Clan. Highland orcs, warriors, the ones who'd hit the settlements hardest during the wars. Garrett's hand went to his rifle. Then he saw her breathing, shallow, barely there. Her lips had gone purple-gray with hypothermia. Ice crystals clung to her eyelashes. She'd been out here at least 2 days, maybe 3. The cold didn't kill quickly at these elevations. It took its time, made you suffer. 20 feet beyond her, he found the second one. Identical face. Twin. Younger maybe, or just less scarred. This one had managed to crawl another 10 yards before collapsing. Her hand was stretched out toward her sister. Even unconscious, even dying, she'd been trying to reach her. Garrett stood there in the snow, rifle in hand, and felt the weight of the decision settle on his shoulders like the sky itself. Leave them. That was the smart play, the safe play. The play that kept his daughter warm and fed and alive. Orcs didn't freeze in the wilderness without reason. Something was chasing them. Something worse than the cold. But then he heard it, not a voice, a memory. His wife, 3 years dead, speaking words she'd said 100 times. There are no enemies in a hospital, Garrett. Only patients. Catherine had been a nurse before the wars, had treated human and orc alike when the refugee camps overflowed, had believed right up until the day she died that peace was possible, that the fighting could stop, that people, all people, no matter their skin color or species, deserved dignity. She died for that belief, died in an orc raid on the settlement, died protecting a child who'd gotten separated from her mother during the attack. Took an arrow meant for a 6-year-old girl and bled out in the mud while buildings burned around her. Garrett had found her body hours later. The little girl was still alive, still clutching Catherine's hand, still crying for someone to help the nice lady who'd saved her. Garrett looked at the 2 dying orcs and saw Catherine's face, heard her voice, felt her judgment. Don't become what killed me. He slung the rifle onto his back and grabbed the first orc under the arms. Dragging 180 pounds of dead weight through 4 feet of snow was not easy. Garrett was strong, 51 years old, but still hard from mountain living and ranger training. But by the time he got the first one back to the cabin, his lungs burned and his shoulders screamed. Cora met him at the door. 10 years old, dark hair like her mother, eyes too old for her face. 3 years of being the only woman in a house of grief had aged her in ways Garrett hated to see. Papa? Her voice was small, careful. What is that? Don't ask questions I don't have good answers for. He dragged the orc inside. The warmth of the cabin hit like a wall. The fireplace crackled. Coffee sat half-finished on the table. Normal domestic morning sounds that didn't match the unconscious warrior bleeding green onto the floorboards. Is she dead? Not yet. Cora didn't move, didn't run, didn't scream. She just watched with those 2 old eyes as Garrett positioned the orc near the fire. There's another one, he said. I need to get her. Stay inside. You always say that, and you always listen. No, I don't. A ghost of a smile touched his face. Catherine's defiance, Catherine's steel spine in a small girl's body. Fair enough. Help me get her boots off. Frostbite. The second trip was harder. Garrett's muscles were already shaking. The cold had seeped into his bones. But he made it, dragged the twin sister inside and laid her next to her sibling. Cora had already started cutting away the first one's armor. Where'd you learn that? Garrett asked. You, when you taught me field medicine last summer. That was for emergencies. This looks like an emergency. She wasn't wrong. The twins were in bad shape. Worse than he'd thought. Hypothermia was the obvious problem, course temperature probably in the low 80s if he had to guess. But underneath that were older wounds, scars from blade and bullet, signs of prolonged starvation. And on their shoulders, burned into the skin like cattle brand symbols he didn't recognize. Orc clan marks, maybe? Or something worse. Garrett had kept his field medical kit. Old habit. Couldn't quite throw it away even though the wars were over. Now he broke it out and started working with the efficiency of someone who'd done triage under fire. Warm water first. Not hot shock would kill them faster than cold. Just lukewarm, applied with cloth to the extremities. Gradual rewarming. Cora helped without being asked, brought blankets, stoked the fire, stayed quiet and focused. They worked for 2 hours. The sun came up full. Light streamed through the cabin windows. Outside, the world was pristine white and deadly cold. Inside, 2 orc warriors clung to life by threads, while a man and his daughter fought to save them. Garrett checked pulses every 15 minutes. Both still there, faint but steady, hearts beating, bodies warming. At some point, Cora asked the question he'd been avoiding. Why are we helping them? Garrett didn't answer right away. He finished wrapping one of the orcs, hands fingers black with frostbite, probably wouldn't save all of them before looking at his daughter. What do you think we should do? I asked you first. And I'm asking you. Cora sat back on her heels, studied the 2 green-skinned warriors who'd invaded their quiet morning. Her face was serious, thoughtful. Catherine's face when she was working through a problem. Mom would have helped them, she said finally. Your mother helped everyone. She helped you. You said you were angry and mean when you came back from the wars. Said she saw something good in you anyway. Garrett felt something crack in his chest, old pain, old grief that never quite healed. Your mother saw good in a lot of people who didn't deserve it. Did you deserve it? No. But she helped you anyway. Yes. So we helped them. Simple logic, child's logic. The kind that cut straight through all the complicated adult reasoning and landed on truth like an arrow on target. Garrett nodded. So we helped them. Cora went back to work. Garrett watched her for a moment, his fierce, brilliant, too young daughter who'd inherited her mother's moral clarity and felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Not quite hope, not yet, but maybe the foundation for it. The first orc woke at dusk. Garrett was sitting in his chair, rifle across his lap. Not quite pointed at the orcs, but not quite pointed away either. Old habits, dangerous habits, the kind that kept you alive in hostile territory. The orc's eyes snapped open. Combat reflex, instant awareness. Her hands shot to her hip where a weapon should have been and found nothing. Her head whipped left, saw her sister still unconscious. Right saw Garrett with the rifle. Behind him, Cora, smaller, vulnerable. The orc tried to stand. Her legs gave out immediately. She collapsed back onto the blankets with a sound that was half gasp, half growl. Easy. Garrett's voice was flat, professional. You've been out about 10 hours. Your body needs time. The orc stared at him. Her eyes were amber-colored. Unusual for Iron Peak clan. They usually ran yellow or brown. These were different, sharp, intelligent, calculating threat levels and exit strategies even while barely conscious. Where? Her voice came out like gravel over stone, rough from disuse and dehydration. Where is this, my home? Found you dying in the snow, brought you in. Why? It was the question Garrett had been asking himself all day. He still didn't have a good answer. Seemed like the right thing to do, still not sure it was. The orc's eyes tracked to Cora again, widened slightly, back to Garrett. Child. My daughter. Garrett's hand shifted on the rifle, not raising it, just adjusting, making sure the orc saw it. Understood the unspoken message, I saved your life, but I'll end it just as quick if you give me reason. The orc nodded, slow, deliberate. Understand, will not harm. Better not. She looked at her sister again. Concern so obvious it transcended species. She, breathing, warming up, should wake soon. The relief that crossed the orc's face was so human it caught Garrett off guard. She sagged back against the wall, eyes closing briefly. When they opened again, they were wet. Thank you. The words sounded rusty, unpracticed, like she hadn't had cause to say them in a long time. Do not know how to. Don't thank me yet. Storm's coming. You're stuck here 48 hours minimum. After that, you leave. I don't care where you go, but you go. The orc nodded again. Cora appeared from the kitchen area carrying 2 bowls. Old military rations. The kind Garrett kept stocked because they lasted forever and didn't require much preparation. Dad says you should eat, Cora said. Her voice was matter-of-fact. No fear, just a kid doing what needed doing. Slow though, don't throw up. The orc stared at her, blinked, then looked at Garrett with something like wonder. She not afraid. She's smart enough to know you're too weak to be dangerous, and I'm here with a rifle. Plus, Garrett almost smiled, almost. She's got her mother's instincts about people. What instincts? The kind that save angry soldiers from themselves. Cora set the bowl down within reach. The orc looked at it like it might be a trap, like kindness itself might be the most dangerous thing in the room. What is your name? Cora asked. The orc hesitated. Old wariness, the kind born from years of being hunted. Kale. I'm Cora. The grumpy man is my papa. His name's Garrett, but everyone calls him Webb because his last name's Webb, and soldiers aren't creative. Despite everything, the pain, the exhaustion, the absolute strangeness of the situation, Kale's mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Kyle is good name. Cora continued, settling down cross-legged a safe distance away. Is that your sister? Yes, twin. Her name is Zara. Twins. Cora's face lit up like someone had given her the best present in the world. I've never met twins before. Can you read each other's minds? Do you feel it when she's hurt? Can you... Cora. Garrett's voice cut through the rapid-fire questions. Let her breathe. But Kyle was looking at Cora with something soft in those sharp amber eyes, something that recognized innocence and marveled at it. Many questions, like small warrior. I'm going to be a hunter like Papa when I grow up. He says I need to learn patience first, but I think patience is boring. Patience keeps you alive, Garrett said. Same thing he'd said 100 times before. Boring keeps you breathing, Cora finished, mimicking his gruff tone perfectly. Kale made a sound. Took Garrett a second to realize it was a laugh. Rough and unpracticed, but genuine. She has spirit. She has too much spirit sometimes. No such thing as too much spirit. Kale's eyes went distant, sad. Not after everything. Garrett wanted to ask what everything meant, but before he could, the second orc stirred. Zara woke with less panic than her sister. Maybe because she heard Kale's voice. Maybe because whatever bond twins shared transcended consciousness. Her eyes opened, found Kale, and immediately started speaking in rapid Orcish. Garrett's hand tightened on the rifle. The conversation went back and forth for a full minute. Kale kept her voice low and steady. Zara's rose in pitched questions, concerns, maybe fear. Kale answered each one, kept glancing at Garrett and Cora, making sure her sister understood the situation. Finally, Kale switched to common. Zara wants to know why humans saved us. Because your papa is secretly nice, even though he pretends not to be, Cora said helpfully. Garrett sighed. Seemed like the right thing to do, still debating if it was. Zara studied him. Her eyes were darker than Kale's, less amber, more bronze, but just as sharp, just as calculating. Where Kale's expression was guarded, Zara's was analytical. Different survival strategies, different ways of reading threat. She said something in Orcish again, short, sharp. She wants to know what you want from us, Kale translated. Humans do not help orcs, not without wanting something. I don't want anything except to know you're not going to murder us in our sleep. Zara made a sound, bitter laugh. If we wanted murder, we would be dead already, she said in heavily accented but clear common. Would not be here. Fair point. Cora moved closer, ignoring Garrett's warning look. What happened to you? Why were you in the snow? The twins exchanged a glance. One of those silent conversations that only people who shared blood, or in this case identical DNA, could have. We were, Kale started, then switched to Orcish. Brief exchange with Zara. Back to common. We were left behind. Clan did not want us anymore. Why not another look, longer this time? We disagreed about things, important things. Garrett had spent enough time in intelligence during the Ranger years to recognize a carefully constructed truth when he heard one. They weren't lying, but they weren't telling the whole story either. What kind of things? Zara's jaw tightened. Things that get orcs killed. Things that make warriors into traitors. Are you traitors? Kale met his eyes, held them. Depends who you ask. It wasn't a reassuring answer, but it was an honest one. Outside, the wind picked up. The temperature dropped another 5 degrees. The storm that had been threatening all day finally arrived in earnest. Snow began falling so thick it turned the world beyond the windows into white static. The radio crackled. Weather report. Same thing Garrett had been expecting. Roads closed, no travel possible. Storm lasting minimum 48 hours. They were stuck together, a widowed ranger and his daughter. 2 orc warriors running from something they wouldn't name. Trapped in a cabin while a Montana blizzard tried its best to kill everything outside. Garrett looked at KL and Zara, at their scarred hands and branded shoulders and too thin bodies. At the way they kept glancing at each other for reassurance. At how they positioned themselves between him and the door, even though they could barely stand. Warriors. Even dying, even safe, still warriors. He thought about Catherine, about her voice saying there are no enemies in a hospital, about her dying to protect a child she didn't know. He thought about Cora sitting cross-legged on the floor asking the orcs about their homeland with genuine curiosity instead of the fear and hatred she'd been taught to feel. He thought about the choice in front of him, the safe choice and the right choice, and how they weren't always the same thing. Storm's here, he said finally. You stay until it passes. After that, he paused. We'll see. Kale bowed her head. Small gesture. Huge meaning. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you're alive and gone and this didn't blow it up in all our faces. But even as he said it, Garrett knew something had shifted. Some line had been crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. The night stretched long. Cora fell asleep, eventually curled up in her bed with the door cracked open so she could hear if anything happened. The fire crackled, the wind howled, the cabin creaked and settled under the weight of ice and snow. Garrett sat in his chair, rifle across his lap, watching 2 orc warriors sleep fitfully by his fireplace. Catherine's locket hung around his neck, worn silver, her picture inside, the last piece of her he had left. He touched it now, felt the weight. What am I doing, Cat? What the hell am I doing? No answer came. The dead don't speak no matter how much you need them to. But somewhere in the wind, in the crack of the fire, in the quiet breathing of his daughter and the 2 orcs he'd saved for reasons he couldn't quite name, Garrett thought maybe he heard something. Not Catherine's voice exactly, just the memory of what she'd believed, what she'd died for. There are no enemies in a hospital, only patients. He closed his eyes. The storm raged on. And inside a small cabin in the Bitterroot Mountains, 4 people who had no business trusting each other began the slow, impossible work of becoming something more than enemies. Morning came gray and cold. The storm had settled into steady snowfall. Not the violent whiteout of last night, but persistent, relentless. The kind that buried the world 1 inch at a time until nothing existed except white. Garrett woke at 0500, old habit. His back ached from sleeping in the chair. Rifle still across his lap, still loaded. The orcs were awake, both of them sitting up, talking quietly in their language. They stopped when they saw Garrett move. Morning, Kale said. Careful, respectful, still measuring threat. Garrett grunted acknowledgement, stood, stretched, joints popped like gunfire. How do you feel? Better, warm, alive. Kale glanced at her sister. Thank you for that. Zara said something in Orcish. Kale translated. She asked if we can help with chores. We do not like being, she searched for the word, useless. Garrett considered. 2 orc warriors still weak but recovering. In his house, near his daughter. The smart play was to keep them contained, supervised, under watch. But the right play. Woodpile needs stocking. If you're strong enough, I'll come with you. Relief crossed both their faces, the burden of helplessness lifting. They worked for 2 hours. Garrett supervised while Kyle and Zara split logs and stacked wood. They moved carefully, testing their strength. But underneath the weakness, Garrett could see what they'd been before the cold and starvation. Warriors, trained, efficient, dangerous. Kale had a scar across her collarbone. Old wound, blade maybe, the kind that should have killed but didn't. Zara had burns on her shoulders surrounding the brand marks. Deliberate. Someone had wanted those marks to hurt. They didn't complain, didn't slow. Just worked with grim determination until Garrett finally called a halt. That's enough. You push too hard, you'll collapse. Back inside, Cora had breakfast ready. Oatmeal and coffee. Simple food. Warm food. The kind that filled empty bellies and drove back the cold. They ate in silence. The orcs using spoons like they'd forgotten how, relearning basic civilization after however long they'd spent surviving in the wild. Cora watched them with unconcealed fascination. "Can I ask something?" she said finally. Kale nodded. "The marks on your shoulders, what do they mean?" Garrett was about to tell her to mind her business, but Kale spoke first. "They are," she paused, touched the brand through her shirt, "marks of dishonor. In our clans, the warriors who betray are marked, so everyone knows. What did you betray? A commander, a warlord. We told truth about what he did. He had power. We did not. So we were marked as traitors and cast out." Zara added something in Orcish. Kale's face tightened. "She says it is more complicated than that, but that is the simple version." "What did he do?" Cora asked. "The warlord." The twins looked at each other. That silent conversation again. Years of communication compressed into glances and small movements. "He killed people who should not have been killed," Kale said finally. "Broke the laws of war. We reported him. It did not go well." Garrett felt something cold settle in his stomach. "When was this?" 3 years ago, during the last raids before the truce. 3 years, the same time Catherine died. Garrett's hand tightened on his coffee mug. "The last raids hit the settlements hard. A lot of people died." "Yes," Kale's voice was quiet. "Many died, human and orc both. War is—" She stopped. "War destroys everything it touches. Some things deserve destroying, and some things do not. That is why we spoke against our commander. Why we showed evidence. Why we tried to stop it." Garrett wanted to ask more, wanted to demand details, dates, locations. But something in Kyle's face, old pain, old grief, made him pause. They'd lost something in those raids too. Whatever they'd done, whatever they'd testified to it, had cost them everything. Just like Catherine. The day passed slowly, storm still raging outside. Inside, a strange routine developed. Kale helped Cora with her reading, sat patiently while the girl worked through difficult words. Pronounced them in her careful accented common until Cora got it right. Zara sharpened knives, all of them. Kitchen knives, hunting knives, Garrett's combat knife. Worked the whetstone with practiced precision until every blade could split hairs. Garrett watched from his chair, rifle nearby but not quite in hand, observing, measuring, trying to reconcile what he'd been taught. Orcs are enemies. Orcs are dangerous. Orcs killed your wife with what he was seeing. 2 women, scarred, marked. Trying to be useful because helplessness was worse than death. Not so different from soldiers he'd known. Not so different from himself after he'd come home from the wars. Evening came. Cora insisted on cooking dinner, made stew from dried meat and canned vegetables. It was bland and a little burnt, but no one complained. They ate together, the 4 of them around the small table, wind howling outside, fire crackling inside, a pocket of warmth and life in a frozen world. Cora talked, told stories about school, about the mountain, about the animals she'd seen. The orcs listened, asked questions, smiled when Cora said something particularly outrageous. Garrett said little, just watched his daughter interact with 2 orc warriors like they were ants visiting for the holidays instead of members of the species that had killed her mother. After dinner, Cora yawned. "Bed," Garrett said. "But bed now." She went without much protest, hugged Garrett goodnight. Then, surprising everyone, hugged Kale and Zara too. "Good night. Thank you for helping with my reading." The orcs looked stunned, like physical affection was something they'd forgotten existed. "You are welcome, small one," Kale managed. After Cora left, silence fell. Heavier now, more weighted. Garrett added wood to the fire, poured himself coffee, sat back down. "She is special child," Zara said finally. "She's everything good her mother was." "Your mate, she died in the raids." Garrett's jaw tightened. "Yes. We are sorry." "Don't be. You didn't kill her." But even as he said it, doubt crept in. They'd been there, in the raids, part of the forces that had swept through the settlements. What if they had killed her? What if he'd saved the very orcs who'd put an arrow through Catherine's heart? Kale seemed to read his thoughts. "We were part of Grimvar's unit, northern settlements, last week of raids before truce. Northern settlements, not where Catherine died." Garrett felt something unclench in his chest. Small relief, temporary. "Grimvar," he said, "the warlord you testified against." "Yes. He's still alive." The twins exchanged that look again. "Yes," Kale said quietly. "That is why we ran, why we were in the mountain, Yawns. He was released from detention last month. Came looking for us. To silence you. To kill us. To make sure we cannot testify again if there are new trials. Garrett understood immediately. They weren't just running from exile. They were running from execution. How close is he? We do not know. We lost him in the storm, but he is good tracker. He will find us eventually. Garrett stood, walked to the window, looked out at the white nothing. How many men does he have? 6, maybe 7, all loyal, all trained. And you two are branded traitors, marked for death. Yes, Garrett turned back, looked at the 2 orcs who'd somehow become his responsibility. You could have told me this from the start. Would you have helped if you knew? Honest question, deserved an honest answer. I don't know, Kale nodded. That is why we did not tell. The fire popped. Snow hissed against the windows. In the other room, Cora slept peacefully, unaware that she was sheltering 2 orcs with a death sentence and a warlord probably hunting them through the mountains. Garrett should have been angry, should have thrown them out, should have protected his daughter from the danger they'd brought. But all he could think about was Catherine, about her voice, about her last words that the settlement survivors had told him. There are no enemies in a hospital, only patients. She died protecting someone, died for what she believed. If he threw out Kyle and Zara now, he'd be choosing fear over principle, safety over honor, survival over the values Catherine had died defending. He'd become exactly what she'd fought against. The storm will break tomorrow, he said finally. After that, we have maybe 2 days before Grimvar figures out where you are. We will leave tonight, lead him away from you and your daughter. You'll die in the snow. Better we die than bring death to your home. Garrett looked at them, really looked, at the brands, the scars, the way they sat ready to run, even though they could barely stand. At the desperation poorly hidden behind warrior stoicism. 2 women who'd chosen truth over survival, who'd lost everything for doing the right thing, just like Catherine. You're not leaving, Garrett heard himself say, but you're not leaving. And when Grimvar comes, if he comes, we'll deal with it. You risk everything for us. Why, cool? Garrett touched the locket around his neck. Because my wife taught me that the measure of a person isn't what they do when it's easy. It's what they do when it costs something. He met their eyes. You cost me my peace of mind, my safety, maybe my life. But I'll be damned if I let you die for doing the right thing when everyone else chose wrong. The twins stared at him. Kale's eyes were wet. You honor your mate's memory, she said, voice rough with emotion. This is good. This is right. Garrett nodded once, turned away before the moment could get too heavy. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we start preparing. If Grimvar's coming, we'll be ready. He went to his room, closed the door, sat on the edge of the bed and held Catherine's locket in shaking hands. What have I gotten us into, Cat? What the hell have I done? But deep down underneath the fear and the doubt and the absolute insanity of the situation, Garrett knew. He'd done what she would have wanted, and maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Outside, the storm began to break. Stars appeared through gaps in the clouds. The temperature dropped to dangerous lows, and somewhere in the mountains, a warlord and his warriors tracked 2 traitors through the snow. Coming closer with every hour, the reckoning was coming. But tonight, in a small cabin in the Bitterroot Mountains, 4 people slept under the same roof. Enemies becoming allies, strangers becoming something more. The first impossible step toward a family built not on blood, but on choice. The storm broke on the 3rd day. Garrett woke to silence, the kind that came after days of howling wind, the kind that meant the world outside had been transformed into something new and deadly. He checked the windows. Snow had buried the cabin to the 2nd step. Drifts reached halfway up the outer walls. The forest beyond had disappeared under white. Beautiful, pristine, lethal. They were completely cut off. Kyle and Zara were already awake, moving through morning stretches that looked like combat drills, testing their bodies, measuring how much strength had returned. More than yesterday, less than they'd need if Grimvar came. Cora stumbled out of her room, hair defying physics in 6 different directions. Is the storm over? For now, she peered out the window. We're buried. We've got food for 2 weeks, firewood for 3. We'll dig out when it's safe. Kale appeared with coffee, steam rising from 2 mugs. She'd learned Garrett's routine. How he liked it black and strong enough to strip paint. Small gesture, huge meaning. Thank you, she nodded. Retreated to where Zara sat sharpening the last of the knives. They'd fallen into a pattern over 3 days. Careful courtesy, respectful distance. The orcs helping where they could. Garrett watching, evaluating. trying to reconcile trained warriors with the two women who taught Cora to braid her hair in the Iron Peak style and laughed at her terrible jokes. But underneath the domestic routine tension coiled like a spring, Grimvar was out there, getting closer. And when he arrived, the fragile peace inside this cabin would shatter into blood and fire. Garrett was drinking his second coffee when he noticed it. Something had fallen from Cale's pack, small, wrapped in oilcloth, lying on the floor near the fireplace. He walked over, picked it up. The weight felt wrong. Too heavy for cloth, too light for a weapon. That is mine. Cale's voice came sharp, fast. Garrett looked at her. She'd gone pale. Zara had stood up, hand moving toward a knife that wasn't there. What is it? Personal. Please give back. The fear in her voice stopped him. Not fear of him, fear of what he was holding. Garrett's fingers tightened on the cloth. He could give it back, respect their privacy, maintain the careful trust they'd built. Or he could open it, see what these two orc warriors had carried through the mountains, what they valued enough to risk death protecting. Catherine's voice whispered, trust them. But another voice, harder, older, carved from war and loss, said, know your enemy. He opened it. Inside was a locket, silver, tarnished, delicate chain broken, but unmistakable. Catherine's locket, the one she'd worn every day of their marriage, the one that had disappeared the day she died, the one he'd searched for in the ashes and mud and blood of the settlement raid and never found. Here, in an orc's pack, the world stopped, sound cut out, vision tunneled, everything that mattered compressed into the small circle of silver in his palm. He opened it with shaking hands. Inside, Catherine's picture, smiling, and across from it, Cora as a baby, both of them preserved behind scratched glass. Where? His voice came out dead, flat, the kind of calm that came before violence. Where did you get this? Silence. Garrett looked up. Kale and Zara stood frozen, faces stricken, like they'd been caught in a crime they couldn't deny. Where did you get this? Not a question anymore. A demand backed by every ounce of barely controlled rage. Kale's voice cracked. We can explain. Explain you were there the day my wife died. You took this from her body. Cora appeared in her doorway, eyes wide, frightened. Papa, go to your room, Cora. But now, she fled, door slamming. And then it was just Garrett and the two orcs, and 3 years of grief transformed into white-hot fury. His hand went to his rifle, leaning against the wall, 5 steps away, loaded, ready. Start talking, every detail. If I think you're lying even once, I put you both in the snow and let nature finish what I should have let it do 3 days ago. Zara said something in Orcish, fast, desperate. Kale nodded, took a breath, met Garrett's eyes. Yes, we were there, April 17th, 1982. The raid on Clearwater Settlement. Your wife, we did not kill her, but we were there when she died. April 17th, the date burned into Garrett's memory like a brand, the day the world ended. Tell me. His voice was still too calm, too controlled. Tell me everything. Now. And Kale began to speak. Kale's voice was quiet, steady, like she'd rehearsed this 1,000 times, like she'd known one day she'd have to confess. We were soldiers in Grimvar's unit, Warband Iron Peak. 40 warriors. I was lieutenant. Zara was scout. We had served 5 years. Good soldiers. Loyal. She paused, swallowed. Grimvar is warlord of the northern reaches. Powerful. Connected to the clan chiefs. To the war councils. He had respect. Authority. We followed his orders because that is what soldiers do. Garrett said nothing, just stared, rifle still out of reach, but getting closer in his mind. The raid was supposed to be quick. In, take supplies, out, no casualties. That was the mission brief. That was the law of war during the truce talks. Zara spoke, first time using common in front of Garrett without prompting. But Grimvar, he lied. He not want supplies. He want blood. Kale continued. We entered the settlement at dawn, 40 warriors, against maybe 100 humans, civilians mostly, some militia. Your rangers had pulled out the week before. We knew this. Grimvar knew this. Garrett's jaw tightened. He remembered the withdrawal. Ordered by command because the truce was imminent, leaving the settlements undermanned, vulnerable. We secured the perimeter, standard operation, no resistance yet. Then Grimvar gave new orders. Kale's voice dropped. Kill anyone who resists. Take prisoners, show strength, make humans fear. Zara's hands clenched. I say to Kale, this is wrong. This breaks law. She agreed. We go to Grimvar, say we cannot follow this order. He hit me. Kale touched her jaw, like the bruise was still there. Said there is no law, no rules, only victory, only power. Said we follow orders or we are traitors. So we tried to follow orders without following them, Zara continued. We fire above heads, warning shots, make people run but not kill. Kale's voice broke. But Grimvar saw. He was furious. He took rifle from Zara. He aimed at crowd of fleeing civilians. He fired. Garrett couldn't breathe. 14 shots, 14 people fell. 14. He'd found 14 bodies when he'd arrived. 14 civilians cut down while fleeing. The sight that had broken something in him that never quite healed. Your wife. Kale's eyes were wet now. She was there, at the chapel, helping people evacuate. She had Red Cross armband, medical personnel, protected by treaty. Grimvar didn't care about treaties, Zara said bitterly. He saw her helping a child. Little girl, maybe 5 years old, human child separated from mother. Your wife was trying to get her to safety. Garrett's vision blurred. He remembered. The girl, found her alive in the chapel, crying over Catherine's body, saying the nice lady had saved her. Grimvar raised his weapon, aimed at the child, said no witnesses, no mercy. He fired. The world was spinning. Garrett gripped the table to stay upright. Your wife saw. She moved, put herself between bullet and child. The shot hit her back, high, near the spine. Catherine, always protecting, always choosing others over herself. She fell. Child was safe beneath her. But your wife, she was dying. Kale's voice was barely a whisper now. I ran to her. Zara covered me. Grimvar was laughing. Said, good shot, one less human-loving traitor. I knelt beside your wife. She was still conscious. Garrett made a sound, not quite human. She looked at me, at my face, my green skin, my armor. She knew what I was, knew I was enemy, but she smiled. What did she say? Garrett's voice was gravel. She asked if the girl was safe. I told her yes. She smiled wider. Said, good, that's all that matters. Then she looked at me very seriously. She said, Kael closed her eyes. She said, tell my husband there are no enemies in a hospital. Only patients. Tell him don't become what killed me. Tell him to love our daughter enough for both of us. The cabin was silent except for Garrett's ragged breathing. Then she died. We tried to help. Tried to stop bleeding, but the wound was too severe. She died in my arms. Green-skinned orc arms. And she died at peace. Zara spoke. I took the locket, and I wrote down her last words exactly. In common, so we would not forget, so we would have proof of what Grimvar did. We carried her body to the chapel, later with the others, said prayers in Orcish and common both. Then we collected evidence, names of dead, witness statements, the locket, everything. We brought it to the War Council, Kale said, showed them proof, showed them what Grimvar did, how he violated every law of war, how he murdered protected personnel, how he created atrocities that would destroy any chance of peace. They laughed at us. Zara's voice was bitter, said we were weak, said war has no rules, said Grimvar was hero for being strong. We refused to stop. We went higher, to the clan chiefs, to the circle of elders. We testified, again and again, showed the locket, told Catherine's last words, demanded justice. Kale touched the brand on her shoulder. This was our answer. Marks of dishonor, branded as traitors, sentenced to exile. Grimvar sent to detention for 6 months to appease the humans. But his power remained, his influence grew, and we were cast out, Zara finished, told to die in wilderness, told our names would be erased. Our families would disown us, all because we told truth about war criminal. We kept the locket, Kale said quietly, kept it to remember, to honor, to have proof that she was real, that we were not just killers, that we tried to do right thing even when it cost everything. Silence fell like a weight. Garrett stared at the locket in his hand, at Catherine's face, at evidence of the day that shattered his world. These two orcs, these branded traitors, they'd been there, they'd witnessed, they'd tried to stop it, and they'd spent 3 years in exile. 3 years dying slowly. 3 years carrying the weight of Catherine's last words, trying to deliver them to a man they'd never met, a man who was now holding a rifle, and deciding whether to kill them. The door to Cora's room opened. His daughter stood there, face streaked with tears. She'd heard everything. "Papa." Her voice was small, broken. "Papa, please. Oh, Go back to bed, Cora." "No." "Cora." "No." Louder now, desperate. "Papa, they tried to stop it. They tried to save Mom. They got exiled and branded and left to die because they told the truth about what happened. They were part of the unit that killed her. They were part of the unit that tried to stop her from being killed." Cora's voice cracked. "Mom died protecting a little girl. They spent 3 years protecting Mom's memory. Don't you see? They're the same." Garrett's hands shook on the rifle. "They brought this to our door. Grimvar is coming. When he gets here, we all die. Then we fight." Cora walked forward, stood between Garrett and the orcs, 10 years old and fierce as her mother. "We fight because it's right, because Mom would have, because these women did the right thing when everyone else chose wrong, and they don't deserve to die for it." "Cora, move." "No, I'm not asking, and I'm not moving." Tears streamed down her face. Mom's last words were, "Tell him don't become what killed me." "Papa, if you shoot them, you become Grimvar. You become the thing that killed Mom. Is that what you want?" The rifle felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Garrett looked at his daughter, at her mother's courage burning in young eyes. Looked at Kyle and Zara, at 3 years of suffering carved into their faces, at the brands that marked them as traitors for choosing honor over obedience. Looked at the locket, at Catherine's smile, at the woman who'd believed in redemption even for enemies. There are no enemies in a hospital, only patience. His finger moved off the trigger. The rifle lowered. Garrett sat down hard, put his head in his hands. "I can't," his voice broke. "I can't forgive this. I can't just. 3 years of grief doesn't disappear." KL's voice was gentle. "We do not ask forgiveness. We ask only for chance. Chance to honor her memory. Chance to be more than monsters who watched her die." Zara added, "We cannot bring her back, cannot undo what Grimvar did, but we can make her last words mean something, can make sacrifice matter." Garrett looked up, saw 2 orc women who'd lost everything, saw his daughter who needed him to be the man her mother had believed he was, saw the choice in front of him, revenge or redemption, hatred or hope, become Grimvar or become something better. "Stay." The word came out rough, painful. "No more secrets, no more half-truths. If we're doing this, we do it with everything in the open." The twins nodded, relief and gratitude warring on their faces. "And one more thing." He stood, walked to them, held out the locket. "This belongs to my wife's memory. I'm taking it back. But I want you to know I understand why you kept it, why it mattered." Kale took the locket with shaking hands, placed it around Garrett's neck. "It should be with you, with her family. We were only our guardians." Garrett touched the silver, felt Catherine's presence stronger than he had in 3 years. Cora threw her arms around him, then around Kyle and Zara, pulling them all into a fierce, desperate embrace. "We're going to be okay," she whispered. "We're going to make Mom proud." Garrett closed his eyes. For the first time in 3 years, he thought maybe she was right. The next morning brought news. Garrett was outside digging a path to the woodshed when he heard it. Engine sound, snowmobile, coming fast. He grabbed his rifle, positioned himself where he had cover and sight lines. Old training. The snowmobile appeared through the trees. Single rider, familiar silhouette, Dalton Cross, owner of the trading post 15 miles north, former Special Forces, Vietnam 68 to 71. Good man in a fight. He killed the engine, climbed off, saw the rifle and raised both hands. "Easy Webb, it's me." "Dalton, hell are you doing out here?" "Bringing news, bad news." He glanced at the cabin. "You alone, why?" "Because what I'm about to tell you involves orcs. And I know how you feel about orcs." Garrett's stomach dropped. "Talk." Dalton pulled out a crumpled paper, radio transmission, printed. Border Patrol picked up intel 3 days ago. 7 orcs crossed from the disputed territories, moving south, fast, led by someone the scouts identified as Grimvar Iron Peak. War criminal, former warlord. Garrett's blood turned to ice. "How close?" "Lost track in the storm. But best guess 48 hours. Maybe less if they're good trackers." "They're good trackers." Dalton's eyes narrowed. "You know something." Garrett made a decision, trust or lie, partnership or isolation. I've got two orcs in my cabin, twins. They're the ones Grimvar's hunting. Dalton's hand moved toward his sidearm. Easy. Garrett didn't raise the rifle, but his posture shifted. They're not the enemy. They testified against Grimvar, got exiled for it. He's coming to silence them before there can be new trials. Webb, are you out of your mind? You're sheltering orc war criminals with your daughter in the house. They're not criminals, they're witnesses. They were at Clearwater. They tried to stop the massacre. They carried Catherine's last words for 3 years trying to find me. Dalton stopped. Catherine's, they were there. They tried to save her. They've been running from Grimvar ever since. Long silence. Dalton processed. Combat vet, intelligence background, reading the angles. So Grimvar's coming here with 6 warriors against you 2 wounded orcs and a 10-year-old girl. That's the situation. You're going to get killed. Probably. Catherine would have wanted you to protect Cora, not die for 2 orcs. Catherine died protecting someone who needed help. These 2 spent 3 years in hell for telling the truth. I'm not letting the bastard who killed my wife kill them too. Dalton stared, then slowly a smile crossed his weathered face. You've lost your damn mind. Yep. Good. He clapped Garrett on the shoulder. Because I was worried you'd gotten soft. When do we start preparing? You think I'm letting you have all the fun, besides I owe you from Da Nang. Figure this settles the debt. This isn't your fight. Sure it is. Someone's got to keep your crazy ass alive long enough to be a proper father. He looked toward the cabin. These orcs, they really tried to save Cat. They did, and they paid for it. Then they're worth fighting for. Dalton tapped the paper. I'll spread word, quiet-like. See who else wants in. Meanwhile, you start fortifying. Grimvar's a frontal assault type. Likes overwhelming force. We can use that. How many people will help? Against orcs? Defending orcs, honestly? Maybe 5, maybe none. But I know a few who owe Catherine, who remember what she stood for. They might show. He climbed back on the snowmobile. Paused. Webb, you sure about this? Once we commit, we commit. No backing out when it gets bloody. Garrett touched the locket around his neck. I'm sure. Then God help us all, because we're about to fight a war in your front yard. He roared off, snow spray in his wake. Garrett stood in the cold, rifle in hand, Catherine's locket against his heart. A warlord was coming, with trained killers, professional soldiers, coming to murder 2 women who'd done nothing but tell the truth. And Garrett Webb, former Ranger widower father, was going to stop him, or die trying. Inside, he found Kale and Zara standing by the window. They'd heard the conversation. You do not have to do this, Kale said. We can leave, lead Grimvar away. You'll die in the mountains. We have been dying for 3 years. What is few more days? No, Garrett's voice was firm. You stay. We fight. We win. Zara shook her head. You do not understand. Grimvar he is apex predator. 7 warriors, all veterans. Against handful of humans and 2 exiles, we cannot win. Then we'll make him bleed for every inch. Make him pay a price he doesn't want to pay. Make him decide we're not worth it. He will not stop. Kale searched for words. We are staying on his honor. He will kill everyone to erase us. Then we kill him first. The twins stared. Cora appeared. We're really fighting. Yes. Can I help? No. Papa, you stay in the bunker. The root cellar. Dalton and I dug it after your mother. You stay there until it's over. But this is not a debate, Cora. His voice softened. Your mother died protecting someone. I won't let you die because I'm trying to do the same. You stay safe. That's the deal. She nodded reluctantly. Good. He looked at Kyle and Zara. Now, you know Grimvar's tactics, his patterns, his weaknesses. Time to share everything. We've got 48 hours to turn this cabin into a fortress and 7 civilians into a fighting force. Let's get to work. The twins exchanged glances. Then Kyle nodded. We will teach you everything we know. Grimvar's pride is his weakness. He believes humans are inferior, believes numbers and strength win battles. We can use this. Zara moved to the table, started sketching with charcoal on paper. Grimvar will approach from north, through trees. He likes cover until final assault. Then direct charge. Overwhelming force. Break enemy morale. So we don't let him charge, Garrett said. We force him to fight on our terms. Funnel him. Limit his numbers advantage. Yes. Kale's eyes gleamed. You think like soldier. I was a soldier. Good one, too. 1st Battalion, 75th Rangers, fought the border wars 76 to 80, discharged 5 years before Catherine died. They worked through the afternoon, planning, preparing, turning domestic cabin into combat zone. Positions were marked, fields of fire calculated, fallback points established. KL and Zara shared everything they knew about Grimvar, his patterns, his pride, his rage. By evening, they had a plan. It wasn't a good plan. Odds were still terrible, but it was something. That night, 4 people sat around the fire, planning, preparing, becoming something more than allies, becoming a unit, a team, a family forged in the crucible of impossible odds. Cora fell asleep against Kale's shoulder. The orc stroked her hair with gentle reverence, like she'd forgotten what innocence looked like until now. Garrett watched, thought about Catherine, about her belief that people could change, that enemies could become friends, that love was stronger than hate. She'd been right, even here, even now, even with death coming through the snow. She'd been right. Dalton returned at dawn with news. 3 people willing to fight, Doctor. Marcus Reynolds, former Navy corpsman, owed Catherine for saving his son during the raids. Thaddeus Harding, general store owner, lost his wife in the raids, wanted revenge on any orc commander. And surprisingly, Mayor Silas Flynn, old Air Force, believed in justice over prejudice. 4 humans, 2 orcs, against 7 orc warriors and a warlord. Better odds than Thermopylae. Worse than Garrett wanted. They gathered at the cabin. Introductions were tense. Harding stared at Kale and Zara with open hostility until Reynolds put a hand on his shoulder. They're the reason we know who to blame for Clearwater. They're the reason Grimvar got punished at all. Judge them by that, not their skin. Harding wasn't convinced, but he didn't leave. Flynn was pragmatic. When's he coming? Tomorrow, maybe day after, Garrett said. And we're doing this, really doing this. Yes. For 2 orcs who brought a war criminal to our doorstep, for 2 women who spent 3 years in hell for telling the truth, for Catherine's memory, for the principle that you don't let bullies win because you're scared. Flynn nodded slowly. Fair enough. Let's make it count. They spent the day preparing. Kale and Zara taught tactics, showed weak points in orc formations, explained Grimvar's psychology. He will make offer first, Zara said. He always does. Offer by mercy if we surrender, then kill everyone anyway, is his pattern. So we don't negotiate, Garrett said. We do not negotiate, we fight. As evening fell, the defenders of the cabin looked at each other, tired, scared, but determined. Cora was in the root cellar with supplies for 3 days, locked from inside, safe as Garrett could make her. He'd said goodbye an hour ago, worst conversation of his life. I love you, Cora girl. I love you too, Papa. Come back. I'll try. He'd promised, knowing he might break it, knowing she might lose both parents to orc raids. But what choice did he have? Walk away, let Kale and Zara die, become the man who chose safety over honor. That wasn't who Catherine had married, wasn't who she'd believed he could be. Night fell, the defenders took positions, waited. Garrett sat in his chair, rifle across his lap, Catherine's locket around his neck. Tomorrow or the next day, Grimvar would come. And they would be ready. Outside, stars burned cold and bright. Inside, warriors prepared for battle. The storm was over. But the real storm, the one made of steel and blood, and the collision of honor against pride, was just beginning. Garrett touched the locket one more time. Watch over us, Cat. Watch over all of us, even the green-skinned ones. He thought he felt her presence, warm despite the cold, approving. And in the darkness, he smiled. They would fight. They would bleed. They might die. But they would die for something that mattered, just like Catherine. And that more than anything felt right. They came at dawn. Garrett saw them first. 7 shadows moving through the tree line, not trying to hide, not bothering with stealth. Just walking through the snow like they owned the mountain, like the world itself would bend to their will. Grimvar Iron Peak led them, massive. Even at 300 yards, his size was obvious. 6'8" of muscle and scar tissue wrapped in winter camouflage and old armor. Face like carved granite, eyes that had watched cities burn and felt nothing. Behind him, 6 warriors, all veterans, all loyal, all carrying weapons that had tasted human blood. Garrett's radio crackled, Dalton's voice from the tree line position. Contact, 7 hostiles, north approach, 300 yards and closing. I see them. Hold position. Wait for my signal. Copy. Garrett looked at his defenders. 4 humans spread across defensive positions, Reynolds in the cabin with medical supplies, Harding in the woodshed with a hunting rifle, Flynn in the barn with a shotgun, Dalton in the trees with a scoped rifle, and beside Garrett at the cabin's second-floor window, Kale and Zara, armor repaired as best they could, weapons borrowed from Garrett's collection, faces set like stone. "That him?" Garrett asked. Kale's voice was flat, dead. "That is him." "You sure you want to do this? Still time to run?" Zara laughed. Bitter sound. "We've been running 3 years. Time to stop." Grimvar halted at 200 yards, raised one massive arm. His voice carried across the snow like thunder. "Kale, Zara, I know you are here." The words were orcish, first then common. Practiced, like he'd given this speech before. "You think you can hide. You think humans will protect traitors. You think running forever is life." Silence from the cabin. Grimvar continued. "I offer mercy, one time. Come out, face justice, die with honor. I leave the humans alone. This I swear on my ancestors." "He's lying," Kale whispered. "He always lies." "I know. Give yourselves to me, I make it quick. Hide like cowards, everyone dies slow. You have 60 seconds. Garrett stood, checked his rifle. M14, 30-round magazine. 3 more in his belt, enough to make this hurt. He walked to the door, opened it, stepped out onto the porch. Grimvar's eyes locked on him. Even across the distance, Garrett felt the weight of that stare. Predator recognizing prey. "You must be the human." Grimvar's common was better than the twins, more practice threatening people in multiple languages. "The one who shelters traitors. They're under my protection." "Protection," Grimvar laughed. "Sound like rocks in a grinder. One human with gun thinks he can stop warband. You are brave, or stupid. I'm a father and a former ranger, and I've killed enough of your kind to know you bleed just like everyone else." Something shifted in Grimvar's expression. Recognition, maybe. "Ranger, which unit?" "1st Battalion, 75th Regiment. Fought in the border wars, 76 to 80. "Ah," Grimvar nodded. "You killed orcs then. Good orcs. Honorable warriors. And now you defend traitors who betrayed their own?" "I defend 2 women who had the guts to tell the truth when everyone else chose to lie. Women who spent 3 years in hell because they wouldn't cover up your war crimes." The word hung in the cold air. "War crimes." Grimvar's face darkened. "You know nothing of war, nothing of what it takes to lead, to make hard choices. I know you murdered 14 unarmed civilians at Clearwater Settlement. I know you shot my wife in the back while she was protecting a child. I know you violated every law of war because you're a coward who hides behind superior numbers and calls it strength." Dead silence. Then Grimvar's face twisted into something ugly. Rage and recognition colliding. "Morrison, Garrett Morrison, the woman with the Red Cross. She was your mate." "That's right. She died well. Tried to be hero. Failed. Just another body." Garrett's finger moved to the trigger. 200 yards. Extreme range for the M14, but doable. One shot, and this now. But Grimvar had 6 warriors. They'd scatter. Attack from multiple angles. Kill everyone. Not yet. "You want Kyle and Zara," Garrett said, voice steady despite the fury burning his veins. "You go through me first." "Through you," Grimvar laughed again. "You and what army, human?" Dalton's voice came from the trees, amplified by Bullhorn. "Through all of us." Figures appeared. 4 humans. Not many, not enough. But standing, armed, ready. Grimvar's expression shifted. Surprise. Then calculation. Then something like respect. "You make this interesting. 7 warriors against," he counted. 5 humans and 2 traitors. Better odds than I expected. "Leave now," Garrett said. "Walk away. Live." "I am Warlord." Grimvar's voice rose. "I do not retreat from humans. I do not leave loose ends. I do not show weakness." He raised his weapon. Massive war axe. Old steel. Bloodstained. "Last chance, Morrison. Give me the traitors. Everyone else lives. This I swear." "Your oaths are worthless." "Then you all die." Grimvar roared. Signal for attack. 7 orc warriors charged through the snow. Garrett dove back inside. Contact. The battle began. Dalton fired first. Crack of the rifle. Clean sound. Beautiful sound. 170 yards. An orc warrior dropped. Headshot. Dead before he hit the ground. 6 left. They scattered. Professional reaction. Finding cover behind trees and snowdrifts. Returning fire with crossbows and old firearms. Not military grade, but deadly enough. Bolt thudded into the cabin wall 6 inches from Garrett's head. He returned fire. 3-round burst. Center mass on the nearest warrior. Green blood sprayed. The orc stumbled but didn't fall. Armor took most of it. Kale and Zara were firing from the second floor. Controlled bursts, picking shots. They knew these warriors, knew their patterns, used that knowledge. Another orc went down. Zara's shot, throat, gurgling scream cut short. 5 left, including Grimvar. Flynn's shotgun roared from the barn. Buck shot at 50 yards, caught one warrior crossing open ground, shredded his leg. He went down screaming. 4.5. Grimvar was shouting in Orcish. Orders. Tactical changes. He'd underestimated them. Thought this would be easy. Finding out different. The warriors regrouped, started coordinated advance. 2 providing covering fire while 2 moved forward. Leapfrog pattern. Military precision. They're adapting, Kale shouted. Grimvar is trained. He will not keep charging. Then we make him angry. Make him stupid. Garrett stood in the window. Full exposure. Aimed at Grimvar. Hey, coward, hiding behind warriors. You killed my wife. Come face me yourself. Grimvar's head snapped up. Locked eyes with Garrett across the distance. Pure rage. He bellowed something in Orcish. His warriors hesitated. He bellowed again, louder. They fell back. Grimvar started forward, alone. Massive axe in both hands, walking through gunfire like it was rain. Garrett fired, hit him center mass. Grimvar staggered, kept coming, fired again. Shoulder. Green blood. Grimvar roared, kept coming. Third shot, leg. Grimvar dropped to one knee. For a moment, Garrett thought they'd won. Then Grimvar stood back up. You cannot kill me with bullets, human. I am Iron Peak. I am Warlord. I am... Dalton's rifle cracked. Grimvar's knee exploded. Real damage. Bone fragments. He went down hard. His warriors saw their commander fall. And that's when everything changed. One of them, younger than the others, maybe 30, stopped, firing. Lowered his weapon. Stared at Grimvar bleeding in the snow. Made a choice. Enough, the young orc's voice carried. In Orcish, then common. Enough of this. He stepped into the open. Hands raised. Unarmed. Grimvar's head whipped around. Rakesh, what are you? No. The young orc Rakesh kept walking forward, toward the cabin. No more. No more dying for your pride. No more killing for your lies. He looked at his fellow warriors. He lied to us about the mission. About Kyle and Zara. About everything. One of the other warriors lowered his weapon. Then another. Grimvar screamed, Traitors, all of you, I will. You will do nothing. Rakesh's voice was steel. You are wounded, defeated. Your power is broken. He turned to Garrett. We surrender. We will testify. Tell truth about Grimvar, about Clearwater, about all of it. Just stop the killing. Garrett didn't lower his rifle. Why should I trust you? Because I was there, at Clearwater. I saw what he did. Saw him kill your mate. Saw Kale and Zara try to stop him. Everything they said is true. He pulled something from his pack. Letters, documents, evidence. I kept records. Everything Grimvar did. Every crime. I was too coward to speak before. But no more. If I die today, let it be for truth, not for his lies. Kale appeared at the window, stared at Rakesh. Recognition. You were there. You saw. I saw, and I am sorry. Sorry I did not speak when you did. Sorry you suffered alone. The other warriors were moving forward now. 4 of them, leaving Grimvar isolated, bleeding, raging. Traitors, cowards, I will kill you all. But he couldn't stand, couldn't fight, could only scream impotently while his own warriors abandoned him. Garrett kept his rifle trained on them. Drop your weapons. All of you, slow. They complied, axes, crossbows, knives, all laid in the snow. Now step back, hands visible. They did. Dalton emerged from the trees, rifle ready, covered them while Garrett approached. This a trick? Dalton asked quietly. I don't think so. Rakesh knelt in the snow. The others followed. We submit to human justice. We will testify. Everything we know, everything Grimvar did. Why now? Garrett demanded. Why not 3 years ago when it mattered? Because we were cowards. Because we feared Grimvar more than we feared our own dishonor. Rakesh's voice broke. Because we watched Kyle and Zara be branded as traitors for telling truth and we said nothing. We are guilty too. We know this. We accept judgment. Grimvar was still screaming. cursing, threatening, until Kyle and Zara walked out of the cabin. The twins approached Grimvar, looked down at the warlord who'd destroyed their lives. 3 years, Kale said quietly. 3 years we ran. 3 years we carried shame of being called traitors. 3 years of exile for doing right thing. Grimvar spat blood. You are traitors. Weak. Pathetic. You deserve everything. Zara kicked him in the face, hard. His head snapped back. We deserve justice, which we will get. You will face trial, real trial, with witnesses, with evidence, and you will die in shame, stripped of honor, remembered as monster. She looked at Rakesh and the others. You will testify. We will. Then maybe some good comes from this. Maybe truth finally wins. Garrett watched it all. The collapse of Grimvar's power, the redemption of cowards finding courage, the vindication of two women who'd lost everything for principles. It wasn't the ending he'd expected. But maybe it was better. Dalton, radio the authorities. Tell them we have Grimvar Iron Peak in custody. 6 witnesses ready to testify. Evidence of war crimes. On it. Garrett turned back to the prisoners. You'll wait in the barn, under guard. Anyone tries to run, we shoot. Understand? We understand. We will not run. Running is what cowards do. We are done being cowards. As they led the orcs away, Reynolds emerged from the cabin. No casualties on our side. Flynn took a bolt in the shoulder, but he'll live. Good. That's a sound behind him. Garrett turned. Grimvar had found a throwing axe on his belt. Was raising it, not at Garrett, at Cora. The root cellar door had opened. She'd heard the fighting stop. Come out to check. Standing in the open. Exposed. Vulnerable. And Grimvar, wounded, bleeding, dying, saw her. Saw the little girl standing there. Saw Garrett's face. Saw the love. The weakness. No. Garrett's scream. Grimvar threw. Perfect form. Perfect aim. The kind of throw practiced 10,000 times. The kind that doesn't miss. The axe spun through the air. Zara saw it. Saw the trajectory. Saw the girl. Saw the choice. She moved. Fastest thing Garrett had ever seen. Blur of motion. Zara crossed 15 feet in a heartbeat. Grabbed Cora. Threw her backward into the cellar. Put her own body where Cora had been. The axe hit. Blade sank deep between Zara's shoulders. Through the spine. Out through the chest. She made a sound. Small. Surprised. Like she couldn't quite believe this was how it ended. Fell to her knees. Zara! Kale's scream tore the air. Garrett was moving, rifle up. Found Grimvar trying to crawl away. Put 3 rounds through his skull. Warlord, killer, war criminal, dead in the Montana snow. But Garrett didn't care. He ran to Zara. She was on her side, Cora beneath her. Protected. Safe. The axe was still buried in Zara's back. Blood pooling. Too much blood. Don't move her. Reynolds was there. Medical training, already assessing. Face going pale. Jesus, the axe severed the spine. If I pull it out, she bleeds out, Garrett finished. If you don't, she dies anyway. Minutes at most. Kale dropped to her knees beside her sister. Started speaking in Orcish. Fast, desperate, pleading. Zara answered, weak voice, getting weaker. What's she saying? Garrett asked. Kale's face was streaming tears. She says it is okay. She saved the girl. That is enough. That is everything. Cora was crying, screaming. No, 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 please, no, don't die, please. Zara reached out with a shaking hand, touched Cora's face. Small one. Voice like whisper, like wind through leaves. You, safe. Yes, please, you saved me. Please don't die. Good. Smile. Peaceful. Catherine, she would be proud. We both died. Same way. Protecting innocent. Choosing love. Her eyes found Garrett. You take care of sister, of small one. You make family, you promise. I promise. Good man. Good father. Catherine, she was right about you. Her hand found Kale's. They spoke in Orcish, sister to sister. Last word, last love. Words only twins could share. Then Zara looked up at the sky, at the clouds breaking, at sun finally burning through. Tell them, she coughed, blood on her lips. Tell them I died, protecting innocent. Not traitor, not coward, hero. You are hero, Kale sobbed. You are my hero, always were. Love you, sister. Love you. Zara smiled one more time, and died. The silence that followed was absolute. Cora was screaming. Garrett held her, pulled her away from the body, let her cry into his shoulder while he stared at the orc woman who'd given everything to save his daughter. Kale sat motionless, hands still holding her sister's, twin bonds severed, half of her soul gone. She started singing, low, mournful, orcish funeral song, old as the mountains. The others stood silent, paying respect, human and orc together, grieving the loss of someone who'd proven that courage had no species. Rakesh and the other orc warriors knelt, bowed their heads, tears streaming. She died with honor, Rakesh said quietly. More honor than any of us. She will be remembered. We will make sure of it. The sun rose over the battlefield. 7 orc bodies, Grimvar dead at last, 6 warriors surrendered, and Zara, who died the way Catherine had died, protecting a child, choosing love over survival. Garrett closed his eyes. Thank you, he thought. Hoped somehow she could hear. Thank you for my daughter. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for being exactly who Catherine believed people could be. The war was over, but the cost would echo for years. They buried Zara 3 days later. The ground was frozen. Took all of them working in shifts to dig the grave deep enough. 6 feet down, proper depth, proper respect. Garrett had a spot picked out on his property, near the cabin. View of the mountains she'd crossed to find redemption, right next to Catherine's grave. Kale had protested at first. She is orc. Your mate is human. They should not. They died the same way, for the same reason. They belong together. Kale had no answer to that. The funeral was larger than expected. The 7 who'd fought, the 6 orc warriors who'd surrendered, plus townspeople who'd heard what happened, who'd heard about the orc who died saving a human child. They stood in the cold while Kale sang her sister to rest. The orcish song was beautiful, haunting, about mountains and starlight and warriors who found peace. When she finished, Garrett spoke. I didn't know Zara long. 3 days of care, 2 days of planning, 1 day of battle. Not much time to know someone. He looked at the grave. But I know she was brave. I know she kept her word. I know when the moment came, she didn't hesitate. She saw a child in danger and she moved. Just like my wife. Just like Catherine. His voice cracked. There are people who live 70 years and never do one thing that matters. Zara lived maybe 38, and in her last minute she did something that will echo forever. She saved my daughter. She proved that honor isn't about species or station or the color of your skin. It's about the choices you make when everything is on the line. He knelt, placed something on the grave, Catherine's locket. My wife said there are no enemies in a hospital, only patients. Zara proved there are no enemies in sacrifice, only heroes. Cora stepped forward, placed her toy, the one she'd been holding when Zara died. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for saving me. I'll remember. Always. Kyle was the last. She had nothing to place, just words. My sister, my twin, my heart. She knelt, put both hands on the cold earth. You were always the brave one. Always the one who moved first, who acted while I thought. You saved me 1,000 times. I could not save you once. Tears fell, but you died as you lived, protecting, choosing right over easy, being more than they said we could be. She looked at Garrett, at Cora, at the humans who stood in respect. She wanted to prove we were not monsters, not traitors, that we deserved to live. KL stood, drew herself straight. She proved it, with her blood, with her choice, with everything she was. She did, Garrett agreed. She absolutely did. Rakesh stepped forward, knelt at the grave. I failed you when you needed me. I stayed silent when you spoke truth. I let you suffer alone. He pulled out something, his warrior pendant, symbol of Iron Peak clan. I do not deserve this anymore. You do. You were better warrior than any of us, better orc, better person. He placed the pendant on the grave. I will testify, for you, for Catherine Morrison, for everyone Grimvar killed. I will make sure your sacrifice means something. The other 5 warriors did the same, each placing something on the grave, each making a vow. They filled the grave in silence, each person taking a turn with the shovel, sharing the weight, the burden, the honor. When it was done, they stood together, looking at 2 graves side by side. Catherine Morrison died protecting a child. Zara Ironpeak died protecting a child. Different species, different worlds, same courage. What will you do now? Garrett asked Kale. She didn't answer right away. just stared at her sister's grave like she could will her back to life. I do not know. We planned to go to California, see ocean, start new life. But without her, you could stay. Kyle looked at him, surprised. Zara died protecting my daughter. That makes her family. That makes you family. So, stay. Help me raise Cora. Help me keep this place running. Help me honor both their memories. Well, so you want me orc-branded traitor in your home? I want someone who understands, someone who knew Catherine's last words, someone who spent 3 years trying to do right when everyone said do wrong. Yeah, I want that. Kale looked at Cora. The girl nodded, eyes red but fierce. Please stay. You're all I have left of Zara, and your family now. Kale closed her eyes, tears streaming. Then I stay. I stay and I honor. I honor Zara. I honor Catherine. I honor you both. She knelt in the snow. Formal orc pledge. I swear on my sister's grave, on my life, on my honor. I will protect. I will serve. I will be family. Garrett pulled her up. Family doesn't kneel. Family stands together. He held out his hand. Cale took it. And there in the Montana snow, with the graves of heroes at their feet, a new family was born. Not built on blood, built on choice. The cabin had changed, bigger now. Addition built onto the east side, room for 3 instead of 2. New porch, better windows, solar panels catching sun. The graves remained the same. Well tended, fresh flowers even in winter. 2 headstones side by side, equal, honored. A truck pulled up the mountain road. New model, clean, city vehicle in mountain country. The driver stepped out. Young woman, 25, dark hair pulled back. Army uniform, captain's bars, ranger tab, airborne wings, Cora Morrison. She'd grown, filled out, strong, capable. Her mother's face with her father's steel. The cabin door opened. Garrett emerged, 66 now, gray hair, more lines, but still strong, still the man who'd chosen honor over safety. Dad, Cora girl. They hugged, long, tight, the kind of hug that carried years of separation and love. You made captain. 3 months ago, just finished advanced training. Your mother would be so proud. You think? I know. Another figure appeared in the doorway, taller, green skin weathered by mountain sun, gray streaking her dark hair, but eyes still sharp, still alert. Kyle. She'd aged too, filled out from the starving warrior to someone who belonged, who had a home. Small one, Kale's voice warm, affectionate. You have come back. Aunt Kale. Cora hugged her just as tight. Of course I came back. Couldn't miss the anniversary. The 3 of them walked to the graves together. 15 years since the battle. 15 years since Zara died. 15 years of healing and growing and becoming family. Cora knelt at Zara's grave, placed her hand on the stone. Hey, it's me. Captain now, can you believe it? Me, the kid who couldn't sit still in school. Now I'm leading a platoon. She smiled. I tell them about you, about what you did, about how courage doesn't care what you look like or where you're from, just about the choices you make when it matters. Garrett knelt beside her at Catherine's grave. Hey, Kat, Cora's home. She's amazing, just like you, just like Zara, just like everyone who's proven that love is stronger than hate. He touched the stone. We did it. We raised her right, made her into someone who sees people not sides, someone who protects the innocent, someone who makes you proud. Kale stood between the graves, hand on each stone. Sister, friend, you both taught us, showed us the way. We carry you with us every day. They stood in silence, 3 people from different worlds, united by loss and love and the choice to be better than their worst moments. Finally, Cora spoke. Dad, I got deployment orders. Kosovo, peacekeeping mission, human and orc troops working together for the first time. Garrett looked at her, pride and fear warring on his face. When 2 months. Dangerous, very, but necessary. Someone has to show it can work. That old enemies can become allies. That Catherine and Zara were right. She stood, faced him fully. You taught me to be brave. Aunt Kale taught me to think before acting. Mom taught me through you that there are no enemies in a hospital, only patience. She touched the ranger tab on her shoulder. And Zara taught me that when it matters most you move. You protect. You choose right even when it costs everything. Garrett pulled her close. You don't have to prove anything. Yes, I do. I have to prove they didn't die for nothing. that their sacrifice meant something, that the world can be better than it was. He held her at arm's length, looked at his daughter, his fierce, brilliant, brave daughter. Then go. Go and make them proud. Make us all proud. I will. And Cora, yeah, come back. Your old man's not getting any younger. Need you around to keep me honest. She laughed, hugged him again. That night they had dinner, the three of them, like old times, like family. Stories were told, memories shared, laughter mixed with tears. At one point, Cahill mentioned in the trial, Rakesh testified, all 6 warriors testified. Evidence was overwhelming. Grimvar's name struck from honor rolls. Family disowned his memory. He died in shame, exactly as Zara wanted. Good, Garrett said. Some people deserve to be forgotten. But not all, Cora added. Some people deserve to be remembered forever. She looked at the window, at the 2 graves visible in moonlight. Like Mom, like Zara, like everyone who showed us the right way. They drank to that. Later, Garrett stood on the porch. Cale joined him. She is so much like them, Cale said quietly. Catherine's compassion, Zara's courage. She's going to do great things. She is going to change the world. They stood in silence, watching snow begin to fall, listening to the mountains settle into night. Do you regret it? Garrett asked finally. Staying here, you could have gone anywhere, done anything. Cale shook her head. This is home. You are family. She is what Zara and I fought for. Proof that it was worth it. All of it. She looked at him. Catherine said there are no enemies in a hospital. Only patients. She was right. But I think also there are no enemies in a home. Only family. Garrett smiled, put his arm around her shoulders. Yeah, I think you're right. They stood together, human and orc, father and chosen sister. Family forged in fire and blood, and the choice to be better than their worst moments. Inside, Cora slept peacefully, dreaming of the future, of peace, of a world where what happened in this cabin could happen everywhere, where old enemies could become family, where courage came in all colors, where love, simple, stubborn, impossible love, could change everything. The snow fell, the mountains stood eternal, and in 2 graves, side by side, 2 heroes rested, their work done, their legacy secure. Catherine Morrison, Zara Ironpeak, different worlds, different lives, same sacrifice. They had shown the way, and the people they saved carried that light forward, into the darkness, into the future, into a world that desperately needed to remember there are no enemies in a hospital, only patients, only people, only family.